The bonnet crew walk in. Loud, obnoxious, the kids are everywhere.
Black fatigue. This video might make you uncomfortable, but it needs to be made.
Black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there.
See, you got black people and then you got niggas, all right? It's a big difference. And most black people, we know the difference. It ain't even a conversation we have all had. It ain't like a meeting that we came together and had together. Like, hey, man, all right, so it's the black folk and it's the niggas. We need to figure out how to get them niggas, all right? We need to get them up out of here. We ain't even had that conversation. We just know it when we see it, because some of us are reformed niggas. See, black folks live a common life, you know, job, kids, dog, you know. We abide by the rules. But then you had the niggas, and that's where you get a lot of your ignorance from. The loudmouths, people that always want to play victim but don't want to fix their own circumstance. Black people are now getting online and they're talking about black fatigue because they are tired of the niggas.
Black fatigue is a thing. Newsflash. White people don't want to live around ratchet black people. And black people don't want to live around ratchet black people. I mean, it's nothing like going to the Walmart on a Sunday morning and then you see the bonnet crew walk in. Loud, obnoxious, the kids are everywhere, in every aisle, unattended. And that's anywhere you go, no matter what. They're highly emotional, highly sensitive. You can't say nothing. You can't even smile and hold the door for them because they'll look at you like you're crazy. And always the victim of something. Either you stepped on a shoe, you looked at them wrong, you told them good morning. They're never happy, they're never satisfied. And you wonder why normal, good black people move out of the hood as soon as they start getting successful. I was one of those black people that said, man, if I made some money, I'ma stay here. I'ma buy up this, buy up that. I'm gonna support the community. As soon as I got my money, I got the fuck up out of there. Because they don't know how to appreciate good shit. And my suburban kids don't need to be dealing with that bullshit. Crab in a barrel mentality. Never take accountability for nothing. So yeah, black fatigue is a thing. And I'll tell you, a lot of people are fucking tired. They're tired of dealing with these kind of people on a daily basis. I mean, I get anxiety when I walk inside of a mall nowadays. I mean, because you got these YNs running around and they don't respect nothing. So I don't care what anybody says. White America is tired of you, and we are too.
Alright, so before you get offended or call him my Uncle Tom or something like that, ask yourself, like, why do black people get some money and their first plan is to get away from black people? Like, why is that? Like, have you ever sat around and asked yourself, like, why is that? And because I personally always think about that, like, dang, it's like our first goal as black people is to go somewhere there's less black people, but then we get mad when other people don't really want to be around a whole bunch of black people. Now, this may be just my accountability trying to like figure it out in my head, because you know, you're never offended when you ask yourself a question. It only becomes offensive when you put it on the internet and other people give their opinions on it. But you're allowed to question things yourself, you know that, right? You don't have to run with the narratives that everybody else is thinking. Crabs in a bucket mentality. I think the craziest thing about the hood, and the reason why I keep saying the hood, is because I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and here in Atlanta it's a lot of black excellence. Like, I'm around so many great black people like that are doing great things with their lives. My neighborhood is full of black people. I mean, men that work honest jobs. It's not a ratchet neighborhood. So I know that this is not an all black people thing. Like, all black people are not ghetto. All black people are not loud. But when I leave Atlanta and I'm just traveling through a city, I don't see any of my people until I go to the hood. And when I say the hood, I mean the low income areas. So the craziest part about the low income areas, they usually have the lowest rents in the city. And I've always thought about this. Just because the rents are low or there's low income in the area does not mean this has to be a dangerous neighborhood. It can actually be cheap luxury if the people that are in the neighborhoods treated it as such. The only way to do that is for the people in the hood to hold each other accountable for what we're not doing around here. Just because it's cheap around here doesn't mean we have to follow a certain level of culture or character just because this is the cheap side of town. Somebody wants to point the finger at the white man, and by all means, I understand we definitely have been dealt a different hand. But at what point in time do we hold each other accountable? Because why is there some people that make it out of the hood, that do something good great with themselves, but then there's other people that are in the hood that is still pointing the finger saying, yeah, but them. The reason why I'm going through this is because somebody else has control over my circumstance. But somebody in your same circumstance was able to make it out of it. So while we can argue and say, yes, there are system issues, but what needs to be fixed are the cultural issues as well. And that starts with accountability.
They're calling it black fatigue, but what you really mean is I'm tired of loving wounded black people. You can just say that part with your chest. That's what you wanted to say. You're not tired because we're toxic. You're tired because your love had conditions. Yours. You didn't come to heal, you came to curate. You came to save a version of black society that was already fixed and no one praised you for it. And when we didn't perform your healing fantasy, you called it draining. This archetype always shows up during collapse, the one that confuses proximity with pain and with proof that they're better than it. Right? They have proof that they're better than it. That's how they see it, right? But you have to understand that you're not above the wound just because you narrate it from a distance. You're just protecting your image in the mirror while the rest of us are still trying to stitch it back together. You didn't transcend us. You abandoned us. Real black love doesn't tap out when it gets loud. It doesn't leave when the wounds resurface. It metabolizes. It listens longer. It doesn't call the hood low vibrational just because it got a better apartment. Love doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. And some of y'all don't have love for us, and that's cool. That's what I'm trying to get it at. It's cool, but I need you to know that the left is something you can get over. You could, right? Like, and if you really tired, rest, right? If you're actually tired, but don't call that healing. That's retreat, because this ain't fatigue. It's spiritual gentrification we're watching, and these are spiritually gentrified people. You're not leaving because you're broken. You're leaving because our brokenness didn't fit your aesthetic anymore. And I need you to hear me clearly. We are not your inconvenience. Okay, we're not. We are your mirror, and if you truly heal, you'll still be here with us, not above us, right? So I get it, right? This is one thing I think is absolutely true. You do not have to like every black space, but don't ever use fatigue as an excuse to stop loving the ones who never had that option to leave. Just stupid shit.
So here's the thing about what that brother just said. See, the word fatigue is more so saying I'm tired. It's not saying I don't love you anymore. It's kind of like having two kids. One kid is always bringing home good grades. The other kid is always getting phone calls called home from the teacher. You're fatigued character of that second kid. I want you to get your act together. And it's not about you guys being in the hood. It's not about people being in the hood. I still have family in the hood. And so it's not about I'm looking down upon those that are in the hood. No, I'm looking down upon the people that have bad character that is still in the hood, or the people that have bad character that's just in culture. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I moved to Georgia back in 2011, 2010, and I wasn't living in the hood, but I was around more black people than I was when I was in New York. And I realized it's a cultural thing. So it's not so much about the placement of the people, it's fixing the understanding of what being black is. For too many people, they see being black as what they see in the music videos. They follow their favorite rapper instead of looking up to their black mayor or their black lawyers in the neighborhood. Because what is publicized is our rappers, our crime. And then we rap and talk about the crime. Now somebody will say, yeah, but you know, the white man is the one that's promoting that music. Yeah, but we're the ones that's listening to that music. We don't live in a day and time where we are forced to think a certain type of way. We can wake up and say, wait a minute, I'm not going to keep playing the same game that has been getting played on me. At any moment, we can wake up and say that. But that takes a level of accountability for us to look at our fellow man and say, yo, we're not doing that over here. We're not rapping about stuff like that. Anytime I listen to a song and it's talking about killing niggas and stuff like that, I'm like, why are we talking about hurting each other? I don't get that. Like, I see black people, I see that as we playing on the same team. So why are we sitting here talking about how we're going to steal the basketball from our teammate? Why are we talking about how we're going to tackle our teammate? Why are we sitting here talking about how we want to take out our teammate? Not saying we should try to do that to anybody else, but why? If you're gonna do it, why are you talking about doing it to people that look just like you? When I see people protesting about police brutality, and I completely get it, a lot of these situations are sad, but you know what situations are a lot sadder? The situations that I see these black brothers committing against other black brothers. Because believe it or not, that happens a lot more than police brutality, if we're gonna be honest. But as long as that crime is put on a beat, it's cool. We'll turn the blind eye to it. That's the accountability that I think black people are tired of. It's not that we're looking down on our fellow man. It's just that we're saying, get up. Stop saying that talking proper is talking white. To say talking proper is to talk white is to say that to talk black is to not talk right. Like anytime somebody enhances their vernacular, now they're trying to talk white. Now they're whitewashed. But nobody else is saying that but us. To ourselves, holding us back from the growth that our culture really needs. But instead, we rather be offended.
Black fatigue. This video might make you uncomfortable, but it needs to be made. There's a growing sentiment, most recently, of individuals who are proclaiming they do have black fatigue. And you don't have to be a non-black person to have black fatigue. What does that phrase actually mean? Essentially, black fatigue is a growing weariness of the actions of the quote-unquote black community. But it goes deeper than that, because we are in 2025 now, and we are being judged based on the content of our character and not the color of our skin. But the interesting part is, the lie that's been sold to the black community in particular is that the color of our skin dictates the content of our character. That's why in the black community, sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, you are acting white, when they're talking to someone like myself who doesn't act the way most people would expect a conventional black person to act. In their minds, there is a correct way to act black. And the people in your ethnic group who fulfill those very negative stereotypes, those are the ones who are going to essentially drag down the collective whole. And that's why there's individuals who are black who do and can have black fatigue, because they see how damaging it is to see the worst of us attract all this negative attention that then unfortunately gets ascribed to the entire race all too often. But what's unfortunate is here in 2025, now we have to contend with the fact that there's people who are so sick and tired of seeing those negative aspects, those negative individuals in the black community attracting all this attention. That's what is spurring this black fatigue.
Here's where black people really lose me, because we use our voice when it's done to us by other races, but we're extremely quiet. Actually, we're not quiet, because a lot of the black on black deaths are in songs. They're glorified. Like, it's become so common that just yesterday I'm scrolling on Instagram or I'm scrolling on Twitter and I see some black rapper from whatever state just got killed by another black kid. And you know what I did? I looked at it and I kept scrolling. You know why? Because it's so common. But as soon as that other person with the gun becomes a police officer or somebody of another race, that's where we draw the line. And by all means, both situations are disgusting. Neither of them should happen. But we need to have the same energy when it's happening amongst our people as well. But let's get off of death real quick. Even when we talk about class, one thing I had to learn as I grew up is that it's okay to feel emotions. Emotions are actually normal. So when you're in a situation and you feel angry, that's a normal feeling. When you're in a situation you feel sad, that is a normal feeling. When you feel happy, that is a normal feeling to being a human being. But how you go about your feelings, how you go about your emotions says a lot about your maturity. And for a lot of people, especially in the black culture, we lead with emotions instead of logic, instead of vocabulary. You know, when you at work and you really want to go off on somebody, so you got to kind of tailor your email in a way that's like nasty nice, but you got to really use your words. So now you're asking other people like, yo, how does this sound? People don't do that in real life, but they should. But instead, we have a lot of black people that rather go to the extent of being loud, being outright, making a scene, killing all credibility on whether or not you was even right to begin with. Again, this is a cultural thing that we need to change. Now, somebody may be saying, yeah, but other cultures do this too. We don't have to do what other cultures are doing. You do not become better by comparing yourself to worse. Instead, you grow from accountability. Because remember this, what we don't hold accountable, the kids will repeat, and ignorance will grow.
The woman who called a 5-year-old a racial slur. My first impression after watching the video, a little bit of white trash. I have to be honest, the kid was 5. I have worked with 5-year-olds for the last 15 years. Absolutely everything they do is out of pocket. They're like little unhinged drunk people. Nothing they do makes sense. A 5-year-old is capable of rifling through somebody's bag and taking things that don't belong to them. Ask any kindergarten teacher. But I realize why so many people are wanting to defend this, because black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, entitlement, the victimhood, that they want to praise this woman. But what she did is not praiseworthy. But also on the same hand, please remember that every day that us white people get on this app, we get called racial slurs. Every single day. So if you don't want to be called a racial slur, you also have to stop calling people racial slurs. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. But for the love of God, please leave the children out of it. Adults are stupid, they're gonna do stupid things. But you're a different level of stupid when you bring kids into it. Thanks for coming to my
So basically what this woman is saying is that two things could be true at the same time. And I said this the other day when this whole situation first broke out, and then we had the panel on Monday night, where I basically said that white people are starting to get fed up, and that is the whole premise behind Black fatigue, is that nobody wants you to continue to play victim for the rest of your life. They tired of being held accountable for things that their ancestors did. They tired of you blaming all of your failures and the things that you weren't able to accomplish on white people. They're tired of you sitting there saying that you're a victim every single day, regardless of what your circumstance is, regardless of what you've been given, regardless of all of the affirmative action, regardless of the fact that you're saying that you're the most educated, but really you're the most enrolled. They tired of you blaming your debt on the system. They tired of you saying that white men are the problem. They tired of you asking for programs, and they're tired of being held accountable for the decisions that you're making every single day.
She'll be watching her back for the rest of her life. Yeah, because that's not thuggery, hidrattery, animalistic. This is why people have Black fatigue. When you act like this, it's not normal behavior. People do stupid stuff. People say stupid stuff. That's life. It's not normal to threaten to unalive people because you don't like what they're doing. But here we are. People are getting sick and tired of opening up TikTok and seeing brawls on cruise ships, brawls in the airport, like literally the most ghetto behavior. We're tired. We're tired of it. But then whining and complaining and acting like it's not your fault that you act that way. Yeah.
And so that comment proved her right. And for whatever reason, y'all think that the white people don't have eyes, that people that are not black don't have eyes, and they can't see how ghetto a lot of this is. And then I have to pay for it because I got to go outside and then account for what you did.
I'm more so concerned about how us black people feel about black people. But I do want y'all to realize something. If we look at certain black people and we say, I don't want to go over there. I'd rather not live over here by these black people. Like I need to get away from these niggas. Like if we say stuff like that, or people that don't talk the same language as us, because at least if I see a group of black dudes or whatever and they doing what they doing on the corner, now I mean I could walk by, I could say what's up, I could play the part, now I mean, and I could get up out of there. But somebody that is not a part of the culture or doesn't fit the profile, how do you think that person's gonna judge us? If we be talking about how we need to get away from niggas, how do you think other people feel about us? That is my biggest thing about black people not holding each other accountable. Because as mad as somebody wants to be about this video right here, because when you say things like, oh nah, I live in a safe neighborhood, there's white people in this neighborhood, what exactly are you saying? These are things we hear in the black community all the time, but we never really talk about why we're saying that. Is it because we subconsciously know the more niggas, the more trouble? That's a problem that we need to stop asking the police to fix.
I don't know what argument I wish there was a good counter for. The whole 1 in 3 black men are convicted felons. And the main argument against that is that black people are over policed. And it's true. Shit's disgusting. But this opens a bigger topic when they talk about, oh, 1 in 3 black men are felons. And y'all get up arguing. Well, that's because we're over policed. You know what that means, right? Even if you're correct, which you are, black people are over policed. You still got caught with a pound of weed. You still tried to rob somebody. You still tried to steal out the store. You know just as well as I know that black men and white men play by 2 different sets of rules in life. It's not fair. But we're not talking about what's fair. We're talking about what is.
I went to an all-black elementary school. School was so black, we used to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing before all our assemblies. From 1st through 4th grade, a police officer would come in. She called herself Officer Friendly, and she would talk about how the police were there to help. Then she came in 5th grade, and she was no longer Officer Friendly. Now she was Sergeant Lyons. Sergeant Lyons took a boy up to the front of the class and demonstrated how not to resist arrest and make sure that you were being properly Mirandized. And this is the part I remember most. When, not if, you found yourself arrested. Again, this is a classroom of 10-year-olds. No matter what color you are, boys, young boys do stupid things as they come into puberty because there's testosterone meeting in a head-on collision with a not completely developed brain. When white boys do things and find themselves crossing the line, it's boys will be boys. It's let's not ruin this young man's life. He has such a bright future. With black boys, it's we've got to make an example out of him as a warning to others. Okay, so black children whose brains are not really in a position or fully formed to create good long-term decisions are introduced to a criminal justice system that then they have a really hard time getting out of, especially when so many of their charges are escalated to felonies and when you have 15 and 16-year-olds being charged as adults. Now, this is where the cycle of poverty starts. When you have a felony on your record, it becomes damn near impossible to get yourself ahead. Depending on the state and the circumstances, there are entire industries you can't work in. You might not be able to get a CDL. You might not be able to apply for a loan to go to college. Getting that first felony conviction when you're really young sets people up for a lifetime of poverty. Now, you know what's even more well studied than the effects of over-policing on the black community? It's the effect that poverty has on people's ability to make good decisions. This has been researched exhaustively. When you are poor, it results in a stress that is catastrophic to your cognitive function. You cannot make decisions for the long term because you physically can't think about it. All you can think about is surviving right now. And when you're locked out of the economy, you can't get housing. You can't even get a job interview. You can't work in entire sectors. You can't get loans to start your own business. Then what do? You commit more crimes, usually property crimes. Most property crimes are considered felonies. And then it's back to jail you go. So this young man, who I am not dunking on, by the way, let's not take every response to mean that we're coming after somebody. We're just furthering the conversation. When this young man is asking, hey, we as black folks know that we're being over-policed, so what am I doing with this weed? What am I doing in these questionable circumstances? We're doing what decades of social and psychological science says people do when they are poor, when they are destitute. And the difference between black folks and white folks is that black folks are set up from the beginning to expect to enter this criminal justice to poverty death loop. Over-policing black communities leverages the psychological inevitabilities of poverty to make sure that we as a community remain poor. What do we do about it? I've got some ideas. They're all perfectly legal, but I don't know if I want to talk about them yet.
That brother broke down how the system could trap you really easily. And I'm not mad at nothing he said at all. All I'm asking for is for my people to hold each other accountable. Let's stop rapping about killing each other. Let's stop thinking kids that talk back are cute. I don't want to hear about what other cultures are doing. We need to start holding ourselves accountable. I don't want to protest about nothing until we are protesting the music that is being made about little black boys killing other little black boys. Everybody else has their black fatigue. That's my black fatigue. But comment below, tell me how you feel. Am I bugging out? Do you feel black fatigue in your life? Because I love my people. I really love my people. I love being black. I wouldn't be any other color. I just wish we knew our potential. A potential that can only be reached if we held each other accountable.